So today I'm going to be sharing a case study off of a fairly large mushroom coffee brand. And this is a continuation of some things that people have maybe seen before, which is the addition of standard shopping and performance max. But there are additional pieces of information here that are kind of coming to light as we progress. And yeah, we wanted to kind of share this with you all now. So I'm getting everything set up. Meta and Google and its infinite wisdom is just taking way too long to kind of produce any sort of good result. But
Well, it's kind of
yeah,
just to kind of put a really important point there. Performance Max has always been kind of a scary, really scary place for clients that have higher LTVs, specifically like that, like of supplements or anything where you have like every 30 days, because it's going to look amazing, but it's not going to improve top line numbers. So I'm curious to see this example.
yeah. So I'm just gonna share screen here, and alrighty. So I'm getting this kind of set up, and I'll take us a little bit back to the beginning. Get rid of ad group, this and this and this. So inside of Performance Max, it's actually kind of unique, and it's a different structure on accident. But what that did was actually teach us a little bit more of insights as to how Performance Max works. And the Performance Max asset group in this one campaign has the asset group landing page here, and then just recently launched a Black Friday, and that's now here. So these two here. Now, the URL of the actual PLA ad used to be this one here, products 30 serving mushroom coffee, and is now this one here, pages Black Friday 83 off Google. So this is the new PLA for Performance Max. So we're kind of seeing that middle of the transition. But what is really interesting is if you are to evaluate inside of Google Ads, what is a PLA click and what is an asset group click? The happy accident we had is our asset group went to a different page than our PLA did. So we were able to actually see, okay, we have 21,000 clicks on the asset group page, but only 1,800 clicks on the PLA page, because this was the feed of the PLA and this was the URL of the asset group. So 21,000 versus 1,800, like, okay, well, what happens when we change to our Black Friday sale? Now it's 2,000 to the asset group and only 29 to the PLA. And you can actually see that as the spend was increasing, which is what has been happening this last week, our CPC is increasing to our non-PLA, and then our CPC is then also increasing to our PLA. So you'll notice that in this area, the asset group CPC is 36 cents, and the asset group CPC is $1.12. The PLA is $2.94, and the new PLA is $3.41. Most people think, okay, so Google Ads is working well. Performance Max is working well because look at these low CPCs and look at these high ROASs. But what they're not being able to identify, and even the script that comes from, who's the guy that created the PMax script? I forget his name.
Mike Rhodes.
Mike Rhodes. Even Mike Rhodes, when I asked him, he said we also can't really identify if a PLA happened on shopping, and a PLA is product listing as on shopping, YouTube, GSP, Discover, or display. It's kind of a PLA was present, but those can be present anywhere inside of Performance Max, pretty much except for search. So when you see these two differences here, we say, okay, well, this is a lot cheaper and there's a lot more clicks. This is a lot more expensive and a lot less clicks, but let's see how the performance is doing. When you look at the conversion rate, we can see this is 0.3 and 1.9 versus 7.5 and 2.98. So these are new. So this is why this is not looking as great into what it was running before, because it had a lot more data. But we can kind of see these are performing better in terms of conversion rate, but not in terms of cost per click. So then we look at, well, what is the cost per conversion? What's the difference there? Well, you got 108 and 53 versus 38 and 62. So these two combined are obviously working better on PLA. Now, at the same time, that this was happening, we've launched a standard shopping campaign alongside of it. That's this one here. And we've been scaling this thing up.
All these variables.
I know, right? And what we did is we said, okay, so PLA does better than Performance Max, but the feeder strategy is supposed to be bringing in more standard shopping to the ecosystem that Performance Max can market to. And that actually sometimes isn't even the case. We spent 8% more and got 1.75% less conversions inside of Performance Max. This is actually not moving. The thought process was, well, if we add shopping, Performance Max's MO, it's normal standard operating procedures. Performance Max is like, okay, I'm going to go take it over. That was the original basis for the feeder strategy. But Google said, whatever gets the clicks gets the clicks. Whatever gets the conversions gets the conversion. So ad rank now dictates if Performance Max or standard shopping. So we're kind of seeing all of a sudden now standard shopping, we scaled up 290%. This went from $2,600 to 10 Gs this last week. And this one's up 143%, which, yeah, we're definitely seeing a drop off in performance. Why? Well, our CPCs are 50% higher after this massive scale. So this massive scale is coming in because we're buying the conversions, and buying the conversions, Google's just like, all right, you want more, you're going to pay for it. So we're hitting a point of diminishing return for sure. And even combined total, we are hitting a point of diminishing return. But we're not necessarily seeing any additional clicks. We actually have 22% less clicks, and the CPC is only up 8%. So it almost looks like standard shopping has no bearing on Performance Max. Not really, not yet anyway. You could make the argument that inside of Performance Max, remember that Black Friday sale, that one doing better? Yeah, but it's also doing better because it's Black Friday. So we don't really have any way to say, well, PLA is actually getting better. We're still seeing some crazy conversion rates. The conversion rate did drop 25%, but it's still at 13. It's much better than the Performance Max PLA and much better than the Performance Max Asset Group. This actually is getting worse. Now, combined total is getting better. But what we're seeing here is that Performance Max is now kind of taking a step back in the grand scheme of things. Search will now outperform PMax. Shopping will now outperform PMax.
I wonder if it's like something happened with the attribution too instead of shopping, because shopping's always been way worse than search when it comes to attribution. But like, I wonder if with this change as well, it's kind of like a safer test, because you can see more clearly what's going on, but you're not losing all the remarketing side of it, and you're also not losing potentially if you want to test out search a little bit to see if that's an option. But you say shopping is something that you more lean into. This is probably, it makes a lot more sense to do like a way safer test.
Yeah,
to sort of figure out what's working and not have to like parse through all the numbers to say, okay, percentage wise, where are we at? So interesting.
Yeah, Performance Max, it's not even like a feeder strategy anymore. Performance Max is now just like a glorified
middle funnel, bottom of funnel. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of remarketing, but it's taking the signals from everywhere. Now, this company spends like 5 times more on Meta than Google every day. So probably the reason why Performance Max, it's probably the reason why Performance Max is like, I don't give a shit about your little PMax campaign or your standard shopping campaign. Like this 10 Gs is not actually enough. Now we're going to scale this way past it. As you can see, this thing's increasing at a rate much faster than the Performance Max, but it's not really, hitting a big diminishing return. Now this has just recently started to scale. If you look at like the last 30 days of things and you look at the cost just kind of massively spiked up from 1,500 up to now it's like, now it's almost $3,000 per day. And we just spiked that up there. So it's still increasing. It's going from 500 to 1,500 to $3,000. And we'll see how this kind of progresses. So you're seeing like the worst ROAS just because it spent yesterday, like really, really a lot. But if we go back kind of one day, and we kind of compare these campaigns together against each other here, these two here. So go to yesterday. There we go. Now compare that to the previous period. Get rid of Google's recommendations. It's a little bit cleaner now. Now your cost increase is like, okay, 32%, 73. So we're still working well. We just double the budget yet again. So we're gonna see what happens here.
I'd be curious to see if like shopping is doing more marketing too, because like you're saying, high LTV product. I wonder, is the NCAC like consistent, or like what do the back end numbers sort of look like? I don't know if you could show it on stream, but could you give some more insight, I guess, on that?
Yeah, and what's funny is PMax is actually coming out colder than standard shopping.
Oh, it is? Okay. Are you doing new users only, or new customers only?
Yeah, now it's coming from Northbeam, so take it with a grain of salt, because this is not the best firing, and that's where I'm like, I wish I had Wicked. but they came to me.
Just take
with already
20%
having
off of the new visits. And
pretty much. Yeah. And so maybe more. Because Wicked's like, yeah, 5% is new. And this is like, 65% is new. But here's what's cool is standard shopping, even first click is still, even clicks only and first click are still outperforming PMax.
Wow.
I think that this Performance Max campaign has been running so long with so much remarketing with such low CPCs that it just is not even yet enough to take the signal from standard shopping. That may change in the future. This may end up turning into a feeder strategy for sure. Just not yet though. And it almost seems like my standard shopping is doing, we actually use a 3-day accrual look back. That's how we factor it. We need to stay under $66 NCAC. That's our goal. So we stay under $66 NCAC, sky's the limit scale. So we use, we're using a clicks only 3-day accrual, going to Google. And then we're going to customize the columns, do percentage of new visits. Ew. Where'd that go?
I had the same exact thing. I was like, where the heck did it go? It didn't make any sense.
Okay, good. I thought I was having a stroke. All right. So there's new visits, first time transactions, and then first time CAC. All right. So this will kind of tell us the health of this. Now, Performance Max so far, get that. There we go. This is getting us 74, shopping 61. So,
interesting.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. This is actually getting this is getting colder. This is getting warmer. So it's weird. This used to be 64 and 63. Now it's like 74 and 61. Now we already know. Weird. Well, we already know that Performance Max. We already know that a standard shopping campaign with a restricted bidding strategy will retarget or wait for those existing customers to come back, and that's how it predicts. It doesn't predict; it just stacks the deck. I'm not going to spend unless that person comes back because I know Caden wants it. So give me a minute. I'm not going to spend your money. Just wait till Caden comes back. Oh, and then obviously you see the cost and the conversions go bloop, and then it's like we got him.
paying for the sale versus paying for the traffic. No, I get you.
And then you got the let's see. We got the portion. Or let's see here. Yeah. Never mind. It's not gonna work. Anywho, so this here, our CAC 3-day accrual first time. I'm outside of goal on Performance Max. Now this was already running by the time I got here. I added the standard shopping based on what we saw in the editor report for sure. But this standard shopping is giving us a 51 versus 15. But I do have 20 returning for 200 new. So it's 10%. And this is about, you could round it to like 150 and 5%. So they're both the same, equal 10% is returning. So it's about the same. So not to say that one's better than the other, but standard shopping will hit a point of diminishing return soon because this is way too warm to just continue to scale into forever. Where that hits, I mean, this thing could honestly be about 40, 50K a day for sure. It absolutely could. The 290% increase in spend equated in 209 increase in first-time transactions, 113% returning. And the NCAC is still below target, even with a 300% scale this week. Fantastic. Like
that is crazy.
Still rocking and rolling. It just does not seem related to PMax at all. PMax has such a large signal coming from Meta and has had such a large signal coming from Meta that themselves, when they said, John, we can't scale PMax, I'm like, I guess that's not surprising. It's not even, well, I think this thing is a Pareto rule where 74% of the traffic is cold, but 90% of the sales are coming from the 25% that's warm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense. Like people see ads multiple times. It's just going to be a nature of marketing just in general. But I'd be curious to see, like, based on like the ratio of PMax to Meta, like how does that actually translate to maybe shopping starts scooping up a lot of those users and PMax becomes inefficient, which is really weird because like I would assume that PMax would be able to dip into, display remarketing and have cheaper overall NCACs from the assumption that it's coming from Meta and the end of view.
That also has the assumption that people still click on banner ads today.
That is very, very, very true.
Now, it doesn't mean that they don't work because people are reminded constantly, but we're measuring off of clicks.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And then they go back to the actual shopping ad itself, and that's a signal. So it's weird. It kind of goes back to the old when we were brainstorming, like saying PMax is going to be sort of like the center of all these different outputs when it comes to like, I don't know, we had like a Miro board. It was like Performance Max in the middle, and then like there was standard shopping, YouTube, like
Yeah.
Meta, all that. They were going to kind of feed into it, and it was going to act as like that middle of funnel sort of space. And now it's actually seems like it's able to do that, which is interesting.
Well, you know what's kind of interesting too is it's almost like PMax is just potentially, if you have some really strong campaigns, PMax could almost be useless now.
Yeah.
If display remarketing isn't working well and PMax isn't really doing any sort of remarketing, I'd honestly, I'd take all this money and put it into YouTube remarketing. I guarantee you I'd be better than display remarketing.
Yeah, I mean, that is a really good point with when in terms of YouTube. I'd be curious as to like, based on how audience shift, if this is just a user behavior that's going to continue across audiences, or if this is like audience specific behavior. Because like you might have one audience that clicks on display and one doesn't.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so PMax is like that safety net of like, okay, we have it on $20 a day or $10 a day, like a really, really small percentage. Sort of like, you know, how we used to run dynamic marketing and have that scoop up, you know, what it can, and it's not high risk, but you're still able to sort of pivot with the audiences. But it seems way less impactful, like you're saying, though.
Yeah. And what's really funny too is my Performance Max, I have bid for new customers only on. And I think what's happening inside of Performance Max is, even though the ratios are lower, even what's interesting is in app, and go ahead, and I think you had to click to share my screen.
Oh, sorry.
Right. What's interesting about this is during scale. Now, this we have to just, ignore for a moment, which is asinine, but unfortunately, Google is not going to tell us what it knows because who knows? But the rate of this increasing, the returning customers after only bidding for new customers, is still increasing faster than my new customers is.
Yeah. Well, I also wonder too if that's part of the attribution window. So like if you're on like a 90-day click range, it's going to show the return again, even though they're new. Does that make sense?
Oh, you mean if they're one-time new and one-time returning?
Yeah, I wonder if it like divides it up too, because that'd be something I'd be interested in. Because like if there's an LTV, and they purchase, let's say every 30 days, then you're going to have a 1-to-3 ratio, right? Yeah. Every 30 days, you're going to have return spike up.
Well, this is a subscription, and the tag doesn't fire on subscription, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it would be in a different scenario for sure, but this one is like once they subscribe, you're not having that tag fire multiple times, not visiting that same thank you page.
Yeah, it'd be a lower percentage than the average LTV.
Yeah,
however.
What's interesting though is this is bidding only for new customers. It's not pay more for new. It's bidding only for. So just the sheer fact that Google doesn't even know who these people are, still goes after them, then finds out later, whoopsie daisy, we fucked up. Is that also due to the fact that I'm taking more new from standard shopping? Mm-hmm. So I've then even further penalized Performance Max, where even the top line metrics aren't even reflective of what's truly going on. Yeah, this is actually having a much larger amount of the overall piece of the pie than it did before, where if you didn't dig down this one additional layer more, you say, okay, well, this is not only not as effective as my standard shopping, it's actually potentially worse. And it's not getting a feeder strategy because this is also high amount of new customers, way more new customers than Performance Max, but Performance Max can no longer even bid for these people because the CPCs are now given to standard shopping when they are more so new, which is the whole reason why I started standard shopping in the first place, because Performance Max can't do that. But this is a use case where you're saying, if I have Performance Max and I'm running Meta, and Meta is outpacing Performance Max, is Performance Max actually worth a damn? Probably not. Not really.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because a lot of high LTV clients, I've seen the same thing happen where like supplements, for example, like shopping is amazing. Mm-hmm. And it works, like scaling NCAC. It's really good. It's just buying cycles is how it goes. But that's so weird. Like I looked at the unknowns and the ratio is like nowhere near, like they're literally showing return visitors like spike way above the unknown percentage. And so that's odd though, because I would think that standard shopping would still retain lower, I guess, attribution, but it would just be able to spend. But it's getting more attribution and it's able to spend. So that's weird to me. I don't know.
And achieving a higher in-app ROAS.
Yeah, which is odd because it takes me back to what the other thing we were talking about. At least this was sort of my thing when we were working at, and it was, I'm trying to remember, it was like that other company over there.
We're working in the tar pit.
Gosh, what was it? It was like whenever there was a lag inside of the platform, I would be like, okay, what are they changing? What's going on? Like
Yeah.
what's happening? Something in the algorithm changed. They're doing like these hidden updates.
Why do I keep having to
So
refresh?
yeah, no, literally though, and like sometimes we would find that, or there'd be people at the company that would find these little changes that were like, oh, this setting is now here and it wasn't here before.
Mhm.
But I don't know. There was a lag a little bit ago. It wasn't that big though. I wonder if they did something else to the standard shopping, or if that was all just on the first, essentially, which is what they said.
So I have been seeing a lot higher attribution out of standard shopping for sure. I have not seen standard shopping consistently be performance max in the last month than I have in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say
My
it's been a while.
Now 2 years ago, I was the one that was being kicked in the nuts publicly because I'm like, standard shopping has horrible attribution. PMAX does much better. Why? Because they're trying to force into PMAX. And I was like, no, John, your tinfoil hat, go back into your corner. 2 years later, things reversed. Google's like, all right, no, well, Performance Max is, no longer needing to be the top dog in the page. And all of a sudden, standard shopping for some reason just looks amazing. It's like, it's still a tinfoil hat, but I'm fucking right.
Now the whole tinfoil hat's gonna be around YouTube in the future. That'll be interesting
Yeah.
in the next like 6 months to a year. But
Yeah.
interesting though.
So there's and I have another tidbit for everyone here. I'm gonna drop in another kind of cool factor thing. But the back to kind of like sharing the screen here and back to the topic at hand. The Performance Max in this particular use case does not seem to have any correlation to our standard shopping. It almost seems like it is just another Me Too. And what we're going to be moving towards next is actually reducing this amount of spend. And we're actually going to be pushing it into here. We're going to start to take this so that these are flipped. So that 15K is going to go in standard shopping and 7K is going to go into PMAX. And I'll keep you all posted on how, the clicks only. Let's actually get first touch. That'd be fun. Let's see what first touch looks like. But looking at in-app, well, I can't really necessarily share all the top line because it's like millions a week and it doesn't really matter what the hell I'm doing over here because it's not a millions in spend. But we're right still $1 below goal. 66 is where we need to be. And it's still, it's still pumping. This thing is still great. If we look at first click, PMAX beat on first returning. But standard shopping is not the 10 it used to get. Now, here's what's also interesting, though. What we just did is we added first click. See it, Joey. We added first click attribution. That just told us in the last 3 days, our 3-day returning is 0. Now, if we look at the last 3 days inside of here, our returning is 40.
Yeah. That's really concerning.
Right.
When it comes to Northbeam, at least.
Yeah. Which one is fucked up? Now, here's the hypothesis. This is a cache. This is accrual. Let's check.
This is also, not omnichannel.
Oh, right. It's just,
right. Yeah. So
right.
It could be true to the meta.
Yep. And so I'm building a story because I'm going to come to the conclusion. If we look at the conversions here, I have a convert. Oh, yeah, there is. If we look at the conversions here, here's my thought. If we're looking at the accrual, it's right there. It's still like 20%. Now, if we look at the comparison, this is, it's down in conversions. It's not 0, it's 6 less. And here you kind of have to go with me on this one because this thing's up 62% in conversion value, and we're using a T-row as bidding.
Yeah.
Is Performance Max purposely going after anybody right now and blasting through our NCA, our new customer acquisition setting, to get any sort of conversions that they can see, even if it's not first click accrual, it's going back and retargeting the site? Doesn't know if they're returning customers or not. We don't know. That's the part that we can't tell. It could be that it's just like, okay, go after anybody. It could be shitty match rates or it could be malfeasance. That's the part we don't know. But Performance Max is potentially taking a step deeper into the wrong way. By now, it's just like, fine, I'll get I'll remarket existing customers. It's kind of odd. So Performance Max, when you dive one layer now even deeper than the top line and one layer even deeper than what Northbeam shows, Performance Max, if you're looking at in-app, this is even a larger wake we'll call the stop.
Well, I still am curious to see if like how because the attribution window is so large, like maybe they go from Meta and they go to Google, it
Not
serves
on-
and they
not
go
on
back to Meta
accrual.
and convert.
Well, the attribution window is large, but not on a 3-day look back on accrual.
Yeah, on accrual, I understand that. No, that makes sense. I'm
So
just trying to figure. Well, yeah, because you did conversion, not
Uh-huh.
conversions by conversion time.
right, and there's still
Oh, yeah.
there's still 19 sales there.
No, that makes sense. That is weird.
Exactly. So that's what's wondering is like, is it doing it on purpose or does it just no? But either way, it's shit.
What's new, John? I've come to the same conclusion. It's shit at the end of the day.
It's shit. Here, all right.
It's so weird.
I'm gonna change gears to anybody that doesn't watch me on any other channels. I want to share a small use case, especially during this time of year. So we have a large retail brand. They are in many physical locations and they sell clothing. Now, this is something that I wasn't expecting. I did share because it's kind of a fun, cool little tidbit, but I wanted to kind of share this with everyone in case you are, in case you have kind of like the same thought process that I did. Let me set this thing up real quick. It'll only take me about one more second. This company is a consulting client of mine. They came to me and they said, hey, we need to get, more new customers, scale, yada, yada, yada. So first thing I did was look at what they're spending on. And obviously 15 of the 26,000 in the entirety of Google going to your brand, not a good idea. So here's what's interesting is we said, all right, let's just kill it. I said, just pause the campaign, just completely pause it. It's 2/3 of your spend and also 2/3 of your conversions and also, you know, 2/3 of your conversion value. Just pause it all. We don't need it. Now, here's what I wasn't expecting is I was expecting in-app to like just tank, like in terms of like cost is down, so is revenue. But because it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and because people are wanting to buy from the product, and because we took that ad spend and pushed on Meta, so we scaled up Meta, this campaign here, the broad version, which only spends basically $500 a day, actually spent $40 less, so $563 down to $523. But then the conversion value jumped by $102,000, so went from $3,200 up to $105. So this thing just massively scaled up and gave us a ROAS of an in-app ROAS of 21,735 with 37-cent CPAs, down 97%. And we didn't do shit. We didn't do anything.
Yeah.
We basically just paused the exact match. But this is when we're talking about omni-channel and in-platform metrics is take your put your marketing cap back on, take your Google Ads hat off, and think about like, should I pay this much money for people to Google the brand name? But this is just saying that you can take one broad campaign of your brand and pretty much do PMax, exact phrase, Matt. You do pretty much all with like just a broad campaign now. That's how much brand is not. That's how much you're overspending on brand sometimes.
Well, and with the caveat, broad on conversion-based bidding, though, correct?
Oh yeah,
that's the biggest.
RT ROAS in this campaign is set to 690.
Well, and it's interesting because, like, I mean, if you exclude existing users in there as well, it's like if you're going to go and scoop up new people, and it's people that you're going to try to build data off of that have already had a touch point, they're most likely going to, it's better for them to convert on an ad than like guess and see, oh, it's just going to shoot out as much as possible and see what happens. Yeah. It's interesting because, like, the old mentality that I'm still using is exact match, manual, try to bring down the CPCs and see what's going on. And now it's like, okay,
broad match
to the other side of the equation now. So
yeah, broad match and close enough works now. It's funny because that's what PMax does. It's so funny
PMax or without.
Yeah, we went from standard campaigns to the introduction of PMax to finding out it's like a year and a half ago that's absolute dog shit. And so then finally Google did. And now we're back to like, 2019.
Yeah. Even with Meta, it feels like too.
2020. Yeah. It's the weirdest thing. But this is a big wake-up call to those using PMax. It should be, at least. If you're still using PMax, you're not looking deep enough yet.
Well, it'll be easy for them to see now, just from a ROAS standpoint, if they were to launch another campaign, for example, they have, oh, I have shopping. Oh, wait a minute. Shopping's getting all the credit. What's going on?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah, and
just
if,
more questions that will probably come up from it, or people that'll panic that are just running PMAX and wonder what's going on. My ROAS is dropping.